Hi, this is Damien AtHope, and I'm an Axiological Atheist. And I'm here with my guest. Could you please tell us your name and what kind of atheist you are?
My name is Willow, and I am not sure what kind of atheist I am. I'm kind of a combination of agnostic and agnostic, I guess, would be a good way of classifying it.
Okay.
And a little bit of apatheist, because sometimes I just don't care.
Right. And so could you explain those terms for people that may not know, or what they mean to you?
Okay, so agnostic, that one's probably my biggest one, because regardless of what I believe or what I choose not to believe or what premises I choose to reject based on a lack of evidence, that's pretty much the biggest definition for me in terms of my atheism is I don't have a belief. I don't believe anything. I don't disbelieve anything. I reject the hypothesis because I don't have any evidence to support it. And so agnostic is just, it means you don't know. It's the opposite of gnostic. So a gnostic atheist would say, I know that there isn't a God. An agnostic atheist like myself would say, I don't know one way or the other, but I don't believe that there is. And agnostic is an interesting one. It says, define God. What do you mean by that? Until you can really define what God means, this entire conversation is pretty pointless.
Yeah,
I'm pretty much there too. And an apatheist is just like, apathetic about it. It doesn't matter to them one way or the other.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I agree. I'm an anti-agnostic. I don't think there's any valid, but I do that in some part because I'm agnostic with the I, like you talked about. That I don't know what I'm supposed to be doubting. There's no valid concept. So but I understand the terms, and thank you for sharing that. So were you always an atheist, or were you raised a believer?
Neither, actually.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting. I was raised in a non-religious but not necessarily atheistic household. Like, clearly my mom believed, but she never tried to force me to go to church. We never talked about church. Interestingly enough, when I came out as an atheist, she said, I should have taken you to church more. No, trust me, that's actually what caused me to not want to be religious or, theistic. And extended members of the family were Catholic, though, so I got them influencing me, trying to get me to go to church, drink holy water. It's not really good for you. It's got some oil in it that you don't want to drink, but they tried to get me to drink it. Like, no, it's gonna put my insides and no. It was really interesting. It was kind of just like a hodgepodge of different beliefs that I was constantly being exposed to. And I didn't buy into any of them. I thought they were all BS. And I had this interesting thing where I wanted to believe in a loving God. I'm like, okay, I believe in God. But then I realized that if I believed in him, I wouldn't be doubting him so much. Like, I would literally, start my prayers with, I know you probably don't exist, but just in case. I'm like, okay, that doesn't really sound like somebody who believes. Like, clearly I'm doubting that there is anything there. And, interestingly enough, the thing that caused me to really cement my, okay, I'm definitely an atheist, had nothing to do with religion necessarily, and everything to do with science. Basically, was having some kind of, because, regardless of whether I believed or not, I'm absolutely a person who believes in evolution. And had somebody, spouting this creationist stuff, and I was like, okay, look, this is how this works out. This is the scientific method. You come up with a hypothesis, you test the hypothesis, and then you base your resolution on what that hypothesis, what the testing shows you. And like, you said a hypothesis, you said, the earth is this and this and that. Right. You tested it, you had no proof, and now your conclusion is, well, I didn't prove that it wasn't there, therefore I still believe. That's not scientific. And then I realized, well, that's exactly what I'm doing myself with God. I'm coming up with here's the hypothesis, he exists. I'm testing it, there's no proof, and I'm saying, well, I didn't prove that he's not there. And I'm like, no. Scientific method dictates that you reject the premises, and I've been rejecting the premises since then. That was about 2 or 3 years ago that conversation took place.
That's pretty awesome. I haven't heard someone say that they came to it from that way yet.
I don't tend to do things the way other people do them.
Yeah, I kind of the same way. I mean, I was a full believer. Never doubted God, never read an atheist book. I went to college to be a drug and alcohol counselor because I had been sober for 18 years at the time. And I went there believing that I was going to bring, Christianity to, counseling. And they made me take 2 classes on religion because they said that because the spirituality and higher power and God and all that is so connected to addiction therapy, I needed to learn it. Well, I didn't want to learn it, but I learned about 10 different religions of the world in the first class, which blew me away because I didn't know that stuff, and started making me doubt because they're kind of the same. And then the other class was on learning the Bible, and I halfway through that class, I turned atheist. It wasn't even an atheist book; it's just learning all the facts, and I'm like, okay, this is bullshit. So it's so funny. I became an atheist, and I didn't even know what an atheist was. So it's kind of different. Like yours is kind of different. So when that happened to you, what was the feeling? Because I remember I turned like hot. I got like emotional. It was like almost like scared. Like, what do I do now, or what happens, and what do I believe, and what is everyone gonna think? I mean, it was like all these feelings. Did you experience that, or was it just easy?
Not really, no. My situation was kind of like, I think I'm an atheist. Okay, that makes sense. And like, it was just really freeing. It was just like, now I don't have to believe in all that bullshit that I didn't want to believe in to begin with because it just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, okay, there's a loving God, but then there's all this horrible stuff happening. How do I explain that? Okay, so God is all-powerful, and yet somehow there's still evil. Like, I didn't know how to reconcile those things, and when I realized that I just don't have to believe he exists, suddenly the world made sense. Bad things happen because bad things happen. Because people are the way they are, because, because science, because human emotion, because psychology, and I was just like, my entire world just suddenly, it was like there was a piece that was just like misaligned, and it just clicked into place, and everything opened up. Wow, it was pretty good. It was a good feeling.
Yeah, that I would say that I'm very impressed with you. That is very rational. I mean, it's commendable. To do that from a very rational place, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
See, you're incredible.
Thank you.
It's very wise. I mean, it's very easy to stay deluded, but that's very wise to come about it at such a rational way. I'm very impressed.
I think it would have been more painful to keep trying to delude myself, I guess, is a good way to word it, than to just kind of, it's like, what's a good way of putting it? Okay, so say you're in a room, and everything is black. Like, the entire room, all the decorations are black, the furniture, the walls, and then there's this one red thing just in the middle of it, kind of throwing you off. You could either find a way to make the red thing stop bothering you, or you could just take it out of the room, and then suddenly everything fits again.
Right.
So, religion was that red thing, theism was that red thing, and I was just like, you know what? I'm sure there's another room for this. Chuck, and, everything it meshed well again. I think it would have been more... It would have been harder to still believe than to just reject it.
That's great. Very rational. I like it. I tried to focus on being as rational as possible.
It's funny because I'm not always this rational.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting where my rationality pops in and where it just goes out the window, and I'm completely emotional. This and death are probably the 2 most rational things that I am kind of, with. I'm so rational with death in particular that I actually don't understand how people are upset about it. Like, I don't understand how to relate to them when, there's a death in a family. I've had deaths in my family, and I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel, a sense of mourning. I was like, well, they're not in a place, obviously circumstances vary. These people were in, they were suffering. And I was just like, they're not suffering anymore. That's a good thing. So I'm not going to be sad about it. I'm not going to be selfish. And I just didn't understand. And then at the same time, if a fictional character in a story dies, I'm crying like a baby. I'm like, I don't understand this. I guess because the fictional ones are completely preventable, whereas there's nothing you can do. I mean, you know, like in general, like obviously there's something that can be done to stop a fictional character death, you just don't kill them. But you can't stop death in the real world, so it doesn't make sense to be upset about it. It happens every day to other people. Why should I be sad about one death and not others?
Yeah.
I'm just stupidly rational about that. And then everything else, emotion.
Yeah. Well, I'm an artist, and I write poetry, too, so, I mean, I understand creativity. Sometimes creativity could be a safer place to allow feelings that normally, you know, we don't normally feel. Because there's some things that I feel in poetry that I really don't even feel in my regular life. Like, but when I really like just intentionally, because what I'm saying is like when you do stuff that's fantasy, sometimes like say like if you thought of yourself as like a leopard or something, you're not really a leopard, you know what I'm saying? But in a fantasy world, you can like get into that character and you almost feel like that, and you're relating on a level that's not really, but you allow yourself to feel that. So I think sometimes, you know, we can do that. So maybe in real life you don't feel something, but it allows us to, you know, feel something that we maybe normally don't.
Yeah. I mean, creative things, like either creating things or consuming other people's creative works, like it's an incredibly emotional experience. It's, I mean, God, I can't even think of words for it. It's just like, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It puts you in the shoes of people and animals and things that you would never get to experience. And it could really make you feel what they feel, even if you don't normally feel that way.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful.
I totally agree. So speaking about feelings, when you came out, right, you said 3 years ago, so did people treat you different in your life? I mean, because most of my family disowned me, or basically just did almost the next closest thing, just ignore me, or sort of. So did you have any reaction like that, or was it just? You said your mom said she wanted to save you more.
No, she was just like, I wish I had taken you to church more. Which the funny thing is that like she has the chance to do that with my younger brothers. She's still not doing it, so I don't think she's as concerned about it as she felt in that moment of hearing, like, I'm an atheist. Oh no, I don't. But, no, I mean, really, a lot of the people that I'm friends with are either okay with it or they're also atheists. My family, I don't really talk about religion with them at all, mostly because I don't talk to many members of my, you know, like my extended family. My immediate family, my two younger brothers are 13 and 17, and they're both atheists. Like, they think religion is ridiculous. Like, they literally do not understand it. They're like, you know, like, they'll make fun of it more than I do sometimes. Like, if we're watching something and someone says something religious, they're like, oh my God, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Why would you think that? That doesn't even make sense. I'm like, calm down, kid. Calm down. So, like, I think it's hilarious. Like, I gave them the word atheist, but they were already there. They already thought it was stupid. They didn't believe in it. So it's just like, it's cool.
Right. Yeah, I understand. Like I said, when I hadn't really met any atheists, so I didn't know that either. I just stopped believing in class, you know, halfway through the thing on the Bible. Yeah. Realized it was bullshit. But I didn't know I was an atheist. It was about 6 months before I started calling myself that, because I didn't know. I thought, well, I don't not believe in Greek mythology. I just know it's false. So I didn't know there was like a, you know.
That's always an interesting thing to me, because people who don't believe in, like, Nordic gods, or Greek gods, or Roman gods, or Mayan gods, you know, whatever, like, pick every other religion besides the big three. If people don't believe in those, nobody calls them an atheist. They're just a rational person. And somehow, because they believe in this myth, they're, you know, like, you know, it's got a word for it, you know, it's theist and atheist. I mean, I think it's crap that we even have to have a term for it. It's like finding a word for not collecting stamps, because everybody thinks that the only way to be is to collect stamps. So, I mean, I think it would be better if we didn't have a word for it, if it was just the thing. Like, either you believe or you don't, preferably more people don't. But we live in this weird little backwoods world where, you know, you're the crazy one for not believing in the completely implausible. It's like little kids saying, I don't believe in Santa, like all their friends, what do you mean?
Yeah, what's like funny is they act like it's been proven or something. That reminds me too, like I know that you are gender fluid, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm mildly intersex and genderqueer, which a lot of people think is bizarre because I also consider myself a man.
That's possible to be both.
I think it's all the above.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's funny how when I tell people, well, there's not just one gender. Everybody I'm one gender. There's not just two genders. It's not just male and female. And this is scientifically true. This is not like my opinion I'm making up out of the,
Yeah, that's an actual.
This is an actual. Yeah, medical. But they still reject it. It's like I'm the crazy one for saying that science is true of this thing that they think is true. It's like, yeah, you believe a myth that was created by religion, because actually what's funny is all cultures didn't think that it was just man and woman. I mean, that's sort of a new bullshit myth that we've created. Because even I posted a thing the other day about how the Saxons, the Anglos. When the Anglos came to England in 500 A.D., they actually had three genders. They had male, neutral, and female. But I mean,
I know the Native Americans also.
Right. Right.
You know, like, obviously not all of them. Some of them had, like, the two-spirit.
Right.
And I know one Native American tribe in particular, they believe in the gender binary, but they believe you get to choose. So, like, at the age of, like, 13 or 14, they have you actually choose, like, are you man or are you a woman? You know, regardless of your sex, like, it's about, like, for them it was about how you identify.
Right, yeah.
And the only reason I know that is because I actually know somebody from that, who was raised on the reservation and actually did go through that process. And, she, even though she still identifies as she chose, male. Like, she chose to be male as far as, like, her societal role.
Right. Was
to be in a male role.
Right. Yeah, I wish that, and some people don't like labels, I wish that really we had more, like at least 7 or something definitions for gender, because that way people would have to acknowledge
that it's there.
That it's there. I mean, like one person said, well, we shouldn't have to have labels. I agree with almost like the atheism thing. We shouldn't have to. But as you said, this crazy world we live in, yeah, we have
to. We do it for sexuality. I mean, we've got gay, straight, bisexual, heteroflexible, homoflexible, pansexual, asexual. Like, we have, like, you cannot have. I mean, this is actually a thing that we know to be true, that ideas can't exist without a way to define and describe them.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise it's just locked in your own head. You can't spread an idea without actually having something to call it. So, I mean, yeah, definitely. Until we're at a point where we don't have to, what's the word I want to look for? I guess prove ourselves or have to feel like we have to answer for our choices.
Right.
We absolutely need as many terms as possible to describe all the different variations there are of the human condition.
Exactly.
So that people will take it seriously and not think, oh, it's just a phase. You're just like every other, heterosexual, male, whatever, like, versus something else, because not everybody's the same. Like, we're not. I mean, if we were all the same, we would be like clones or something. I don't know. Like, we would be like some freaking virus that. Or bacteria that, God, I can't think of the damn word for it now. You know what I mean? It was a parthenogenesis where they, like, the cells split and, yeah, there we go. That's the one.
Right, but right. I think that like you said, I mean, I think we aren't all the same, you know, and I think that it's a good thing. I don't see that as having tons of variations. That's why I think it's always funny when people don't like that I use so many terms to describe exactly what I am. I like clarifying. Yeah, well, I'm sorry that I use too many terms for you. You know, go read a fucking dictionary. I mean, you know. Or how about this? It's none of your business. You don't like my terms? You don't have to look at them, you know, or you don't have to think about them. It's like, but I don't need to change or do something so it makes it be better, easier, more understandable. They always go, you're so confusing. Well, not really. I think I explained it quite fucking well. But it's like that word that you said, the polygynist or whatever, about being for women or favoring women.
Oh crap! It's
or
philogynist.
Philogynist, right? So I posted that on my thing, right? Said I was a philogynist, and this one guy goes, "Well, maybe you're just a married fag." Because obviously you can't like women and be attracted to women, because that sounds fucking crazy.
That doesn't even make sense.
Crazy, you know. How could you like women and
apparently you can either want to have sex with them or want to spend time with them, but you can't do both.
Yeah, you can't see them as people. I mean, fucking what the hell is that with that?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I try to not see them as people. But no.
No, but I just
work.
But I was saying it's funny how people have this thing where they use all those terms though in a negative way. First off, what if I was a fag? And I mean, so it's like I on my I have a meetup and it has a man with an eye and then it has a gay rainbow or whatever behind it, and people are like, well, if you pass this out, aren't they going to think that you're gay? And I go, so what if they do? What does that mean? Why do you even say it like that? And I go, you know what I wanted to do is I want to let people know that are LGBTQ, that they're welcome in my group. That they know that I'm a supporter and I'm not ashamed of it. So I said...
I think that's perfect. I can't remember the guy on the Big Bang Theory with the glasses and the curly hair. I've
almost never watched that show, so go ahead.
I actually don't watch the show. I just know that he's in it because, well, I mean, like, I know that he's in it just from seeing, you know, being on the internet. But no, there was a quote that he had, like, you know, he was doing some interview, and I guess a lot of people think he's gay or get confused and think, you know, whatever they call him gay.
Right, yeah.
And this interviewer was basically asking him, like, when people assume that you're gay or think that you're gay or say that you're gay, why don't you ever defend yourself? And his response was, because I don't think there's anything I need to defend myself from. Being gay isn't a bad thing, and who cares if they think I am?
Yeah, I
guess in particular, considering the ones who think he's gay the most are straight men, like, it really wouldn't affect it either way, because, I mean...
Well, I actually have both. I have gay men that think I'm gay, or bi men that think I'm gay, and then I have straight men that say it as a put down. So I have both. I have gay guys like going, hey, you know, they start try to flirt with me on Instant Messenger privately, and I'm like, yeah, thank you, but that's not me.
That's how I'm with a lot of guys. I'm like, it's really flattering, but I'm actually no, thank you, you're not my type.
Right.
Oh, what is your type? Well, women.
Yeah.
And like it, you know, occasionally I will be interested in a guy.
Right.
But for the most part, I'm mostly into women, which is why I say philogynist versus like lesbian or homosexual, or whatever. Like I kind of just I identify myself as like what I like the most.
Right.
So to speak.
That's cool. Yeah, I like the term because I support women and I value who they are as people. I think that they add a lot to the world. So, which I know. Well, I'm just saying. I mean, I've told a guy before. They say, well, I'm what are they? A misogynist? No, I'm a misogynist.
Misandrist.
Misandrist. Yeah, I was trying to think of the. I'm like trying to think of what the word they say is like. I don't know. Yeah, because they say that I'm so supporting of women and valuing of women. They said, well, you see women as better. I said, well, no. I look at the facts. Humanistically, women are better. That's not like an opinion. That's not an opinion of mine. What women do and what men do. Let's look at the stats. 95% of all sexual assault is men. I mean, like 90% of all violence is men. I mean, it's like murders, all these, the serial killers. I mean, you look at all the majority of things men. So it's not like I'm making an opinion that's not somewhat based in reality. I'm not saying that women are better. I'm saying that when humanistically they exhibit qualities that are worthy of emulating. And that's what
I like to think of it as kind of a, I guess, nurture versus nature type thing, where I think that if more men were allowed to embrace what is deemed as their feminine side,
I totally agree.
Emotional, and express themselves in healthy, nonviolent ways, I think that everybody is capable of those good qualities. It's just that what we think of as masculine is damaging.
I totally agree.
Be a man, suck it up, be tough, don't cry. Well, no, that's okay. Crying is a good thing. I mean, back in, the Greeks, which, I mean, they were sexist in their own ways, but, in Greek mythology, and, in all the stories, crying, the heroes cry. Because crying means you give a damn. Crying means you care about what's going on. What kind of a, what kind of a hero doesn't care about what's going on? How are they going to save the day if they don't give a crap what happens at the end of it?
Yeah.
So, I just think that we need to make men feel safe to feel less masculine, or just change what masculine means so that it's not so toxic. Toxic masculine, I'm both a huge proponent of kind of reshaping how we raise young men and how we frame being a man and being masculine. Because I think it hurts everybody. I think it hurts them. I mean, look at, we're looking at, they commit the most violence, they commit the most, assaults. They also commit the most harm against themselves.
Yep.
They have the most untreated, they're the ones that don't get treated for their mental health, because mental health is that's a weakness, and I can't be weak because I'm a man.
Right.
So they don't get treated for it. That ends up hurting them.
Right.
When they have pain and they can't express it, they just try to kill themselves because I can't express my emotions. I can't say I'm in pain. I can't be vulnerable and weak. They're hurting literally everybody, including themselves, because of this horribly toxic idea of what it is to be a man.
Oh yeah, well, I know about stats. Being I took psychology. I know the stats about the difference between men and women when it comes to suicide. Women usually try suicide more times.
Mm-hmm.
Men
but
usually
they try to the less messy ways, and they try the kinder ways.
But so usually men complete. That's much more common than a man. When they do it one time, they just kill themselves. They also usually do it more violent, and usually shotguns and stuff like that. Yeah, stuff that's like you said. I mean, it's
jump off of the,
jump out. There ain't no coming back from that. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, it's terribly tragic, and I can't stand when these, obviously, not all men who fight for the rights of men, where their rights are actually being trampled on, are this negative MRA stereotype, but the ones who are those those misogynist MRA guys who are more busy fighting feminism than actually fighting for any men, other than themselves. I'm tired of this idea that it's it's women's fault, or it's it's the feminization and we're threatened. No, you were threatened anyway. These kind of things, they didn't get better when men started being safer to be emotional, or worse when things got, safer for men to express themselves. Trans suicides, gay suicides, the numbers didn't go up when people started accepting them, or they started going down. They're still too high because we don't accept them still to the extent we should, but the point is acceptance works. Being able to be vulnerable works. Being able to have people to talk to works. Bottling it in does not. I should know, because I used to bottle my shit in all the time, and I was incredibly suicidal, incredibly upset with my life. When I started feeling more open to express myself to other people, when I stopped trying to hide every time I felt like crying, I stopped wanting to kill myself all the time because, one, I wasn't alone. Two, there was other people who were there for me, and there were other people who understood what I was going through. Like, and there were people who accepted me. I mean, these are important things for everybody.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm a feminist, and I'm an anarchist feminist, because I see that like, so they say, like, oh, well, why don't you use humanism or something else? As an anarcho-feminist, I don't agree. Even if a lot of stuff changed, it all has to change, or I'm still fighting it. And really, it would always be there, because I always know it's going to come back. So, but anyways, one of the things that for me is, like you said, the word hero. Did you know that the original word hero was a name of a female? It was never a male name.
I actually had no idea.
Yeah, it's Hero and Lander. You can look it up. I'll send you a link. Hero and Lander, the story of the woman that sacrifices herself. She was, I can tell you, I'll tell you the whole story, but anyways, she's a virgin and for the goddess, and then some guy comes along and she thinks he's dead, so she sacrifices herself, and she's, anyways, whatever. But the whole point is, I always say that it makes me mad that even the name has been robbed from females.
That's interesting, yeah, because like now we have hero as a male, and if you want to be a female here, you're a hero.
Right. And so it's people don't realize, I think, the level of unfeminizing that society has done. That we've robbed women's voice at such a level that even, like I said, the name hero, now we think it's a man, and it actually never was. But anyways, I don't want to talk about just that, but the other thing is that I always feel like it is personally against the men, because constantly a lot of the things are said, like you said, support. I don't think men are inherently negative. I think that men can absolutely be good. I mean, I'm mostly a man, and to me, I can do good things. So I don't think that those qualities. I think that the problem is our society promotes the negative aspects for men. Like you said, masculinity. I see that this call for masculinity really is a call to be a bad person a lot of times. It's not framed in a way that's positive. This thing of like get balls, and it's even now so used so much, women use it, but what it means is don't have a vagina. And it also goes back to the fact of when people were castrated, don't be able to not produce babies. And the same thing goes with why is that important? The same thing is why it's important to have a boy, because it carries on your name, so you're nameless. So you're, progeny list. So you're not a real man because you can't produce, heirs. It's just all this nonsense. People should be valuable, male or female. It doesn't matter. If you have balls or didn't have balls, what does that matter? I mean, how does that make you better? It doesn't make you better. And when they tell a man they're no good, what do they call him? A pussy. And again, they call him a part on a woman. So they're saying don't be, and when they say don't cry, they don't say don't cry like a little boy. They say don't cry like a little girl. So once again, women, by that statement, are being dehumanized, are being vilified for being female. And I see that is seriously abhorrent. And also, that's, like you said about the crying, it goes back to how harmful this non-feminism is for men. Because then, like, I can't wear, like, my beard. When I do it red, it's when I start it, it's vampire blood. It's real red. People talk less about it than when it gets washed out, starts looking pink. When it starts looking pink, then it's not okay. Like, yeah, you can't like pink. Somehow, then it's not okay. Or like, I used to have a little small Lhasa Apso, and people would tell me, strangers, I'd be walking the dog to the bathroom. Fucking, I'm like 6 foot tall, And so people would come up to me and say, man, I can't believe you have that dog. Why? Because that dog is for pussies. That dog, right? That dog is not a manly man dog. So like you said about what happens is it frames your whole life of a man. It doesn't allow you to just be yourself. I can't like little dogs. Or the fact, like, I post a lot of cat pics. I've had men private message me and tell me it offends them that I do so many cat pics. Of course, I tell them, well, there's a solution for that. Get the fuck off my page.
Yeah, I have a guy friend who's he's very like, he's a lot like you actually. Big, tall, bearded.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's a pretty great guy, but like he owns a ton of cats. He's like the crazy cat guy. He's got like 6 or 7 of them, and people like, oh, I can't believe you like cats. Cats are girly. Like women have cats. Oh, men who own cats are so weird. Like, why? Why? I mean, I don't even understand that concept. Like, you're not allowed to like a certain type of animal because of your genitals, because of your like sexual identity. That doesn't make sense.
It does make sense. Well, I had, in fact, I had a lot of girlfriends in my life leave me because they said I was too nice. But really what they were saying, I learned later, was I'm too feminine. I'm not masculine male enough. I'm like, why? I'm not punching you? I mean, what the fuck? But so now I prefer to try to date bisexual women because they get me. I don't have.
What I do.
Well, because I don't have to be something. They're not, if I'm too female one area, too male, they're like, cool, okay, it's like all cool, or at least more cool than. Because I mean, I had one woman before, I would pick out shoes, and she'd be like, "Oh, those look too feminine. You can't buy those." I'm like, "What do you mean you can't buy these fucking shoes I want?" Or like, I go to Walmart and I buy sunglasses, right? And on the sunglasses, of course, they make sure you know what gender it is. It says for women. And I went to the cash register and bought them, and the cash register woman thought she's helping me out. Oh, honey, you don't want these. Look, they're for women. And I go, who says?
You're like, oh, thank you, but the sticker comes off, right?
But I'm just saying, just like that, imagine that in a world where we're not told we can't have a pair of sunglasses because they're not designed right.
Mm-hmm. I'm exactly the same way. Like, I'm gender fluid. Like, I'm kind of, I guess bi-gender would be the way to explain it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm both. Like, not either. I'm actually both. And I can't, like, for the most part, I really can't date lesbians.
Right.
Like, I've tried it. It doesn't work because either I'm too feminine or I'm not feminine enough, or I slept with a guy before, so therefore I'm tainted, and I'm just going to end up with guys again. It's like, okay, I don't know if you know this, but homo-romantic is a thing. I literally do not have any feelings for guys. Sleeping with them is just that, sleeping with them.
Right.
Like, I'm like, it doesn't even matter. So, I mean, I tend to go for, like, in either gender, I tend to go for bisexual people because they don't mind that I'm a little bit of both.
Right.
In fact, a lot of times they like it.
Right.
They don't care that I wear, a pair of girly panties one day and then a pair of, like, boxers the next, or that I'm like, like I bind my chest and wear, like men's clothes, whatever. They're my clothes. Like, they're whatever.
Right.
They're whatever. They're gender fluid clothes. That's how that's gonna work. But like, like when I'm presenting, the straight guys or the lesbians that I used to date, they didn't like it. Like, oh well, I don't like it when you wear those things because I don't like men. It's like, well, that's great, except you like me, supposedly, so you should like me as I am, not as you imagine me or as you wish I was. Because
Right.
At that point, you're not actually liking me, you're liking an idea of me, and you and the idea can go fuck off into the sunset if you don't accept me as I am.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's why I think that we need to say stuff, because it needs to get out there so that we start changing. I think change doesn't happen if we're quiet. Exactly. And people think like somehow that change will happen without being offended. Usually not. So
Practically impossible to have change happen where everybody's happy.
Exactly.
Because it's not change.
Exactly. Just like I've been told that that if I'm going to get famous in the atheist community, I shouldn't have my red beard and stuff, or I should talk quieter or not be so opinionated and this. Yeah, fuck you. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. If people don't like it, they don't like it. I mean, I'm going to be me. And I think, to me in general, our community should be welcoming of whoever we are. Why? Well, there's like we're putting out little stamps of this is the right atheist thing. I'm like, what the hell?
That doesn't even make sense. I mean, just the idea of like identifying, like, it's the right kind of atheist, which is that all that is necessary to be an atheist is to not actively believe in gods. Literally everything else is irrelevant to whether you're an atheist or not. That's like...
But you know what I'm saying, right? The atheist community, like in quotes. Because they like, well, you don't want to scare people away, Damien. You know, you need to have like a calmer thing or be more welcoming. You know, do you have to tell people you're anti-religious? Yes, I do.
Oh, you don't want them to think you're a man-hating lesbian. Well, I am a lesbian, and I do hate a lot of them. I don't care what they don't want to hang around with me. Good. I don't want to be around them and their sexist jokes. And like, wow, it was so funny. Like, that girl should get raped. Like, I don't like that kind of stuff. So if I'm scaring that person away, good. Like, that's my goal.
Yep. Well, I know that's like when I post something that's feminist, I usually have a couple guys that will say things. Once in a while, females say something derogatory, and I usually block them. And I feel no loss. Or when they say it, you know, don't do it, I just want to post it more.
I cannot stand lateral aggression. Like, I actually am more offended by sexist women than I am by sexist men sometimes. Because, like, the men, well, I can understand. They were raised to believe this, and they never had to deal with the negative aspects of believing it. Like, these women... Yeah, they were raised to believe it, but they also had to suffer through it. So I don't understand how they can actually buy into it. You know, like, it just doesn't make sense. It's like, well, I'm getting crapped on all the time because I'm a woman, so let me crap on other women so that the guys stop crapping on me. That's not what's going to happen. You're going to crap on both of you, and then the women are going to think you suck because you're crapping on them to try to curry favor with the majority. It's complete bullshit.
Yeah, I don't understand it. And a lot of times they'll defend men. Like, men need more defending. They already have the whole fucking society. They need more help. I mean...
You're right, they do. They're so fragile.
What the fuck? But really, when I was surprised, like, in the counseling field, its majority is female. That's the majority. And I was in shock. Yeah. I was in shock that I would say something in support of feminism and they would tell me it's not needed anymore. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Right, and racism is dead in America.
Yeah, really. And then I would try to explain it to them, and they'd be like, "Oh no, you're just men have it too." And I'm like, "Why are you defending them? Like, what, I'm telling you reality here." But so it's pretty crazy. But what's funny for me is one of the classes where I really realized how I think more sometimes female. I was in a class, right, and there was probably about 10 to 14 people or something, and the teacher tells me, "Damien, how does it feel to be the only man in the class?" I looked around. I was like, I didn't realize I felt totally fine until you just said that. that sometimes that's how I feel. Like you're talking about gender fluid. Sometimes if I'm around a lot of women, I feel totally comfortable. It doesn't feel odd to me. So I didn't even realize that, I was with a bunch of women. And I was like, wow.
Sadly, that's exactly how I would feel in groups of men, if not for all the rampant sexism.
Right.
Like, when I'm with non-sexist guys, I can hang out with them and feel like one of the guys, quite literally, acting, thinking on the same wavelength, doing all the same fun stuff. But I can't do that with the majority of guys because they always have to throw in some sexism or some racism or some other ism. Like, it makes me sad because I used to love hanging out with guys until I kind of started checking my own, different privileges and, really seeing sexism for what it was. Because, when you're a dumb kid, you don't always understand things like sexism, feminism, blah, blah. All I really knew about the situation was, for some reason, even though, damn it, I was Liu Kang, okay? We were playing Street Fighter, and versus Mortal Kombat out in the backyard. I was Liu Kang, but I wasn't allowed to wear my Liu Kang outfit of just sweatpants. I'm a girl. I put a shirt on. Like, I don't understand these things. Like, I didn't get that kind of thing. I'm like, why? Like, why is it different? And, you know, little things like, oh, well, you're a girl, so you need to help out in the kitchen while the boys are out playing video games. I'm like, to hell with that. Like, I actually literally refused to learn to cook for years because I was tired of constantly being told I needed help in the kitchen while the guys got to go play. I was like, no, I'm going to keep taking off. Like, you're going to call me back. 2 seconds later, I'm going to walk away again, and then you're going to have to find me. I'm going to hide. Like, I'm not going to do this. Like, this sexist crap is just crap. Either make them help too, or stop trying to make me help because I have a vagina.
Yeah, it's. I agree. It's like me and my wife. If you didn't know what we looked like and just how we behave together, it's almost like I'm the female and she's the male. She works and supports me, and I clean the house and I do the laundry and I do the cooking and everything.
I actually had a friend who was like, her family was like that, and what was interesting about this is they were very traditional Chinese family, and in a traditional Chinese family, generally the husband works, the woman stays home and tends to the house, and you know, every other aspect they were so traditional, and even in that they were traditional, but they had to flip. Mom went out and worked, and Dad stayed home and did all the cooking, and you know, cared for the kids, took them to school, took care of them when they were sick, like all that stuff. It was interesting in its difference and just fucking beautiful in its subversiveness. It was like, they're gonna do the family their way. They don't give a shit whether, you know, you approve of it. They're doing it because it works for them. And I thought that was great. And he was a really fucking good cook. Like, I went over for dinner a few times. Like, their food was amazing. So I'm like, you know, this idea that men can't care for their kids, or that it's babysitting when they watch their kids. Yeah. Bullshit. I know enough good dads to know that that is just some sexism talking, and it has no basis in reality.
Yeah, I know that I've been like given shit that somehow I'm not as manly because of my situation. It's like, first off, I was in a truck accident, so I have a disability where I can't always work. That's one reason why I stopped doing that, truck driving, and you know, got into school, and then I tried to you know, once I did that, I realized I was an atheist and I want to write a book. But you know, it's like there's nothing less because I do that. If I was a female, and I was home and had a husband that worked, you know, no one would say anything. But because my wife does it, and I do all the cleaning, somehow it's a different thing. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's just these bullshit gender roles. You know?
Exactly, bullshit gender roles.
The woman tends the house, and it's like, no, the one who wants work works, and the one who wants to tend the house tends the house. And if you both want to work, that's fine. If you both don't want to work, well, you should probably work anyway because you need money. Like my family, my mom and dad, they actually, you know, they didn't work out, and part of the reason, you know, he'll never admit it, but part of the reason had to do with the fact that she was working and he wasn't. It used to be she stayed at home and he did the work. Well, she had an opportunity to go back to school, which she took, and I'm so proud of her for it. She ended up getting a job that paid way better than any of the jobs she's ever had, because she was now, you know, like, she had these certificates in, you know, she had the drug counseling, let's see what, she is a recovery addiction specialist,
right, yeah,
and drug and alcohol counseling,
yeah,
and others.
I was going for that.
Yeah, and now she works as a, basically she works with families of foster youth to, like, try to reunite the kids back with family members. Like, say, you know, like, the kid is with mom, and for whatever reason the kid can't stay with mom anymore. Mom kicks the kid out because they're gay. Mom is a drug user and can't take care of them, and the kid was taken away. Whatever the reason, you know, the kid goes into the system, and she helps reunite them with other family members so that they're not just in the system. And, you know, like, you know, she went from well, we collectively, our family, went from not having very much money at all to being in a pretty comfortable position where she could provide things for her kids that she was not able to provide them before. And it was really threatening to my stepdad because he was at home. He was doing all the women's work. He was doing all the cleaning. He was doing all the cooking. He's not a very good. I'm just gonna
throw it out there.
He's not a very good cook. The only thing he knows how to make is soggy pasta. It was awful. But like it really I guess emotionally it emasculated him.
Right.
And it just caused a lot of tension, and they ended up divorcing after 15 years because he felt threatened by her taking on that masculine role of, being the one who brings home the bacon. And, it was really tragic. Like, I consider it a tragedy that his masculinity got in the way of his happiness like that.
Right, which is why we need feminism. Because feminism, they think of somehow as it makes women, better or something. No, it removes all this gender bullshit. It sees the world through a gender lens and sees how gender does affect men and women. I mean, that's why when they say, I also have a problem too when people say, humanist. Do they know what humanist means? Humanist means that you're able to have ethics and values without supernatural agents. That's what humanism pretty much means. What's
expression. The type of guys, it's almost always guys, who do that. I'm not a feminist, I'm a humanist type crap. They completely co-opted the expression. They seem to think it means I fight for the rights of all humans. That's actually not what feminism is.
I try to say it all the time. That's not what it means.
And even if it was what it meant, it's silly to be a humanist and not also a feminist. That's like saying, I fight for the rights of all dogs, so I'm going to completely ignore all the ones in the shelter over here and focus on these ones that are in the puppy mill. No. If you're going to focus on all of them, then you have to focus on the ones that are at the most risk first. Otherwise, you're necessarily leaving them out of the picture entirely, and you're focusing on the ones who already have more of an advantage.
Tell it.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, tell it. Tell it all. I mean, people need to. I know people need to hear it. It's like I said. So you don't have a problem if you're a humanist, but you don't have a problem saying that you're for gay rights or gay marriage, right? I mean, you just don't say I like equality. You just don't stop there. You define it more, right? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because it needs to be defined exactly. Like what you said. Of course, yeah. That's why I'm a humanist and a feminist.
Mm-hmm. That's why whenever I actually have those conversations with people, when they say, "Oh, I'm not a feminist, I'm a humanist," I say, "Then you're missing the point of both feminism and humanism."
Yep.
Because humanism is supposed to fight for everyone's rights, and if you focus on the people who have more rights, then you are not fighting for anyone really, because the ones who you're fighting for don't need your help, and the ones who need your help you're not fighting for.
Yep.
It just doesn't make sense. I will say, I'm a feminist and humanist. I don't mind their mislabeled term of humanism. I'm both a real humanist and a co-opted bullshit version of humanism humanist. Because I do fight for everybody. Just because I'm a feminist doesn't mean I'm not also going to fight against male circumcision. Why?
Oh, hell yeah.
Bodily autonomy is a huge issue in feminism, and it applies to everybody.
I totally agree.
Don't beat your kids. That's bodily autonomy. They have the right to not get beat. Don't, cut your kids' genitals without asking them, which, by the way, requires them to be old enough to make that decision.
Yeah, hell yes, it does.
Don't not give your kid with leukemia chemo because, I'm going to pray the leukemia away. Don't do this kind of crap. Kids are not dolls. They're not property. They're not pets. They are tiny human beings you have been entrusted to care for. You don't own them, you have guardianship over them. I think a lot of people, parents and, regular parents, foster parents, everybody who's in a position of authority over kids, they seem to kind of get lost in that. It's they've confused guardianship with ownership. It's like, no, they're their own person. You don't own them. You are, you know, like, you're been tasked with taking care of them. And taking care of them requires you to actually listen to what they have to say. And if they're a screaming infant, you can't do that. Like, you can listen to them screaming, and clearly that means that they don't like what you're doing. But, you know, like, I don't know. I could go on about this stuff, like, forever.
No, and everything you're saying is awesome, and it's exactly what I say. In fact, I just did a video about an hour before yours, and I just said almost exactly word for word what you said. I said, parents do not own the child. They have guardianship over the child. Because I believe, as an anarchist, everyone owns themselves. They have the right to their own body. They have the right to use their body the way they want. I mean, I believe in the right to die. I believe in that you can't, like you said, body sovereignty. You cannot spank. You cannot hit. You cannot abuse. You don't have right to have sex with them unless they choose. You don't have right to cut their genitals. I mean, to me, it's just like kind of simple, you know. I don't get it, but I every time I hear you talk, it's like awesome to have someone who thinks so much like me. It's like, right on, tell it.
Yeah, I mean, I only wish that more people kind of shared our views. Like, plenty do, but not enough. Like, really, it's just like, what it comes down to is just not enough people to make a difference yet. So we need to really kind of prep this next generation for saving us, because the people in charge now, they just do not get it.
Yes. But I do plan on, with the books I'm writing, because I have one already done being edited for the third time. Then I have like 5 other ones that I've already started and almost have done. I'm going to, in one of them, my third book is going to be Firebrand Atheism, but I'm going to talk about genderism, sexism, homophobia, talk about all this stuff, because I believe...
What's Firebrand Atheism?
Firebrand Atheism, firebrand in general, means that you desire to seek change, and you actively are a part of making the change happen. So, well, I made a meme of Firebrand Atheism, but so in general, though, the term, though, it pretty much means that. You can look it up, but it pretty much means, like I said, that if someone who's a firebrand is someone who is not okay with the status quo, someone who makes the change, sees the change, and is actively a part of it happening, and usually promotes more positive and active, it's the difference between militant. Militant can be someone who's hard line on something, but it's not always, that they're doing change. They could just be just a jerk. Not that everyone who's militant is, but I'm just saying in general. But some people now, I know, they say a firebrand atheism is someone who offends religion. Well, a religion getting offended because I tell the truth is not my responsibility. And sometimes, just like you said about the men's right movement, I hope I piss those fuckers off, because someone needs to piss them off. Seriously, I have no problem calling them sexist assholes, because to me they are. To me, as you said, and I showed someone a stat. There's a stat they did where they asked people if they were for feminism, not for feminism, or anti-feminism. So funny. Feminism is about 10% to 5%, which is freaking low. It's like disgustingly low, because some of those are women, right? Just neutral is like I think it's 50%, but all the rest is anti-feminism. So, but it's so funny though is that it's given as somehow anti-feminism is protecting us from feminism. How can that be when it's like 5 times larger than feminism itself? It's like
it doesn't really make sense at all. That's like saying that the KKK protects us from like African Americans. Well, no, they attack them. Like, they're not doing anything to us.
Exactly.
It's a very small minority, and everybody's shitting on them. Like, no, the KKK is just adding to that, and that's basically what the MRAs do. They're just adding to what's already sexism. They're adding to what's already a negative atmosphere for a group that shouldn't even be a minority, because they're half the fucking population. I mean, how do we make that happen, where half the population does not have the same rights as the other half, and somehow turn that around in our heads and say that they're the bad guy? I mean, really? Yeah. Why? Because, I mean, like, one of my favorite stats that they love to use is the whole, well, you know, all these men who lose their kids. No, let's be real here. Of the men who actually take the time to go to family court, half of them get the kid. Of the ones who don't go to court, they chose to give up the kid. In like 75 to 80% of the cases of mom has the kid and dad doesn't, he made that choice with her. So, like, really, you're going to blame feminism because he didn't want to take care of his own kid? No, you blame him for that. He didn't want to take care of his kid. How the hell is that my problem? Like, I'm not over here telling him, like, hey, abandon your child. Hey, give the kid to the mom. She's better at it than you. No, like, sexism says that women are the caretakers. Sexism says that men can't, you know, take care of kids. Like, it's patriarchy and sexism that tells us these things. Like, feminists are fighting against that. You're not protecting yourself from anything. You're just being dumb.
Well, just like you
say dumb. I'm actually trying to cut ableist language out of my vocabulary.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to do because it's just so prevalent, and like half of the words that we think of as like safe to use are pretty problematic.
Yeah, I say stupid.
Like, yeah, me too. And I'm like trying to get out of saying things like stupid, dumb, and idiot. And like idiot used to be my favorite. And not because I watch Dr. House, although he makes it harder to stop saying it, because I hear it every, like, 5 minutes. But, like, you know, it's like, it's really hard to... But I'm making an effort, though.
Right, but your point you made was really salient to the fact about the even if, let's say the court gives the mom the custody, the reason they do is sexism. If they see women as only better, that's not feminism. That is the sexism. That's the shit that you're supposedly trying to fight against.
Yep, and the only reason that it's changed from how it used to be, where the man automatically got custody, is because we no longer see children as the property of their parents. Because that's how it used to be. Well, he keeps the house and the kids because the house and the kids are his property. Yes. He can just go fuck off because they're divorced now, and what good is she anyway? Like, a woman without a man? And now we see, like, well, no, I mean, we need to take care of our kids. Like, that's an important thing. They're not just property. So then it turns around, and now the sexism of, well, women are caretakers takes over. Like, both of those reasons were sexist. Like,
I agree.
We went from only men to only women, and it was still sexism. Feminists had nothing to do with that. It just makes sense. And it's aggravating to like, think about sometimes.
Well, no, I think it needs to be talked about. That's what I'm saying. I think that someone needs to fight. That's why I don't mind it if you know. What's really weird though is I never get any threats. I can talk about it all day. That's why I go. You know what? The proof of that feminism is important is that I still can say almost anything I want, and nobody says shit to me. But I have women that don't even talk half as hardcore about feminism as I do, and they get death threats or called bitch and all that. That never happens to me. You know, why does it happen to me? Because I'm a man. And a man is allowed to tell whatever the fuck he wants, and people just go, well, he's a man, you know, he has a right to his opinion. And women, as we know, don't have a right to their fucking opinion.
Yep. Well, what's that, I'm trying to remember the name of the law, I think it's like Lewis's law, where it's, the comments section of any feminist article or any discussion about feminism proves the need for feminism.
Yes.
Because, you know, you'll have this woman saying, like, well, it really sucks that women don't have rights and that we're constantly getting raped and killed by our spouses. And then you'll have 50 guys like, shut up, you bitch, fucking hope you get raped. And it's like, you're proving our point.
Exactly.
And by being such a sexist fucking, like, shit stain, you're literally just proving that we absolutely need feminism, and people like you need to be just silenced somehow or educated, if nothing else.
Right. Well, and
I don't even think education works on them.
Right. So, right, you put a point about silence. Well, there's two ways of silencing somebody. One is removing their voice. The other is raising the other voices loud enough that they can no longer be heard, and that's what I want to promote. I want to promote more men. That's why I feel like it's a duty of mine to say stuff, because I am big, because I am, you know, tough looking. So when I say we can do this, this is good, this is right, and it allows other men to follow and say, yeah, I can do that too, and I can do it with. So
you need all the manly men to be like, hey, guess what? women are people too.
Yeah.
Because then it'll be manly and masculine to actually give a damn about women. Like, holy crap, wow. Like, could you imagine a campaign where, like, you get these, like, big, buff Humphrey Bogart, Clark Gable type guys that just, like, you know, spread that shit around like wildfire, and then all of a sudden, it'll be a cool thing.
Yes.
It'll be, like, the thing that makes you a man is giving a damn about women. Like, that would be wonderful.
See, that's a good slogan right there. What makes you a man is giving a damn about women. I'm gonna write that on my fucking on my thing.
Go ahead, you can have that one.
I like that one. What makes you a man is giving a damn about women. Fucking classic.
Yeah, and like I'm that way too with like issue, because like I'm an intersectional feminist, so I'm not just about women. I'm about women of color. I'm about trans women. I'm about gay women. And so like one of the things that we like to do, I mean, like I administrate, whatever. I'm the admin for a feminist discussion group on Facebook, and one of the things that we do is we have very strict rules about the kind of language you can use. You're not allowed to use not all, because not all is a derailment tactic, and it takes the focus off of the actual perpetrators of, these isms, racism, sexism, transphobia, and it puts it onto the people who aren't a problem, and on how they feel about people that are like them being part of the problem.
Right.
Like, I equated that to a plumber walking into your house saying, well, not all the pipes are leaking, and then refusing to address the leaky pipe because, well, not all of them are leaking. It doesn't make sense. So we don't let people use not all. We don't let people tone police. You know what? You said something racist and 5 black girls are yelling at you and telling you what a fucking moron you are? Good, that's what you get. Don't say racist shit around, well, like, at all, but in particular around people of color. That's stupid. Like, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't even, like, it's not even in the realm of, like, well, this is kind of reasonable. Like, you don't say racist shit around, ethnic minority and expect that everybody's going to be nice to you about it. You don't get to call me a stupid bitch and then me smile and say, well, that's your opinion. Like, no, you can go fuck yourself. Like, and your opinion. Like, I don't have to respect your opinion, even if I have to respect your right to say it. But guess what? You also have to respect my right to tell you how fucking much I hate your opinion. So, we don't let tone policing. We don't do not alls, and we absolutely do not allow people to overtalk people of color. If we're talking about whether or not we think yoga is appropriation or not, like cultural appropriation, we don't let 5 white girls go, well, I don't think it's appropriation because we don't care what you think. It's not your culture. You don't have a say on that one.
Right.
So we ask the people who it actually applies to, what do you think? If they don't care, well, there's your answer. If they care, then there's also your answer. But you don't get to answer for them whether or not you're taking something from their culture without permission, because by definition, they're the ones you need to ask permission of to be able to make that claim. So we're definitely about promoting minority voices on minority issues. Is this transphobic? Well, if you're not trans, you shouldn't be answering the question. You should be listening. Is this racist? You don't belong answering unless it's your race that they're talking about. Like, just like, yeah. Like, getting over animated, I can tell.
Well,
it's passionate about this stuff.
Well, and I like it. I always tell people, you know what I like? I like real. I love authentic. I hate people that filter. Fuck that. And a lot of people don't like me because I don't filter. I just fucking tell it how it is. I'm trying to turn the volume of that down a little bit because I know that I want to try to, because I am going to be getting more in the public eye because of my books. But I still am going to be me. I mean, am I going to offend people? Oh, fuck yes, I'm going to offend people. You know what? But it's not. But this is
going to offend the right people. Though.
Well, true, probably the right people. Oh, I agree. No, I agree with that. Yeah, but I always say that. But I'm being me. And stuff that I do is not against people. People may be offended, but it's not against people. And also I don't try to act loud, like you said, passionate or whatever, because I'm trying to make people offended. I'm just being me. People need to, be able to have difference,
Exactly. I mean, it would be boring if everybody was exactly the same. Well, and, like, too, that's how I feel with, like, my feminism. I'm not against men. Yeah. I'm against sexism. So if you're a man who perpetrates sexism, I'm going to be against you personally because you are a sexist. Yeah. I don't care that you're a man. I'd be just as against you if you were a woman who was perpetrating sexism. And, like, to an extent, sometimes, like I said, I'm, like, even more critical of the women because you should know better. Like, I don't try to be against people. I'm not a TERF. I'm not against trans women. I'm not a, SWERF. I'm not against sex workers. I'm not a misandrist. I'm not against men. I'm against oppression. Yeah. I'm against cultural appropriation, oppression, sexism, infant circumcision. Like, I'm against the things that harm other people. Me thinking that you are an asshole does not hurt you. It hurts your feelings, maybe, but it does not hurt you. You're not going to not get a job as a guy because I think you're an asshole because you said sexist things. Me, on the other hand, I could not get a job simply because I am a woman. And because they're going to assume that I'm going to go get myself knocked up and then focus on my family instead of work. Like, that's a real legitimate oppressive thing that happens to women. It doesn't happen to men. Nobody questions male politicians. Well, you're going to have a grandkid soon. Like, how are you going to balance your family with your work? Same way that they did when they were dealing with their kids. Right. Guess what? These grandkids have parents. It's called the politician's kid. Like, like somebody had asked, I think it was Hillary Clinton, I don't even remember, it was one of the female politicians, and they had asked her basically that question, like, well, you have a granddaughter on the way, what are you going to do? And it's like, what do you think I'm going to do? Like, same thing as everybody else. I'm going to let my kid watch their kid, and I'm going to keep doing my job. Like, what does that even have to do with anything? And so I'm just like, I hate it, like, literally hate, like, passionately flaming hate when people equate their personal feelings with systemic oppression. Yeah. Me not liking you does not hurt you. It doesn't even hurt me. It doesn't hurt anybody. But me not being able to get a job, or that girl over there not being able to get an abortion when she needs one, or that, black guy over there getting shot by a cop, those things actually hurt people. Those things matter in the grand scheme of things. Your personal feelings, which are going to go away in 5 minutes when you forget that I exist, it's not oppression. You don't have the right to feel good. You have the right to not be oppressed. Like, that is your right. And if you need to feel good by oppressing people, you definitely don't have the right to feel good. Like, right. I don't even care if your life is literally miserable and you hate everything about it because you can't oppress people, then you're going to be a miserable person who's not oppressing people rather than a happy oppressor. Like, that's my goal. Is like, regardless of how you feel about it, my goal is to make sure that you stop oppressing. And of course, I'm being general, I'm not talking about you, because you're not oppressive. You're impressive, not oppressive.
Well, thank you.
So I'm just like,
as much as you talked about hate, I would say, well, I totally agree, but I would say, and on that note, I love hearing your ideas. I totally agree, and I almost exactly think like you do, and it does. It really, but the only thing different I would say about women, it hurts me when I see women defend men and stuff because I see the victimization that they've been put through. Because, see, coming from a counseling background, it's like hating the woman that's in an abusive relationship when she was raped as a kid, abusive father, ends up with an abusive that matches her father, then she gets out of that one, goes to another abusive thing. Is it really her fault, or is it? It's right. It's she.
Like you go along to get along.
Right. So, well, and also I know psychologically that we have what's the things called fight or flight, and they also have.
Isn't there also a freeze in there? Isn't it fight, flight, or freeze?
Well, as I say, yes, but that's not generally it's considered fight or flight. But yes,
yeah,
it's part of the flight is part of the freeze. It's just not. It's non-fighting. Anyways, but it's still part of the same thing in general. For psychology, it's just part of the flight. Your flight from reality, flight from the situation, even though you're not physically moving. But anyway, so you're not fighting. Anyways, but the other part actually that they found out is tend and befriend. It's more common in females that instead of fighting or getting away, you try to tend and befriend. So it's actually part of the makeup that then gets victimized. Because then, of course, you try to make the oppressor happy. You try to tend to them, because then if you're on their side, then they'll be nicer to you. So I understand the psychology, and I see them as being victimized for being good people. So I see the intent. The intent is to tend and befriend to the oppressor, and I don't see them as like you said, as worse. I see them as more victimized. I see it as just evidence of the need of feminism when you have a woman doing that, because they really are just like if like you said, an African American was promoting racism for the white slavery or something. Yeah, they're actually the victim. That just proves the victimization more. I feel.
Good point.
So if a black person
take that one in.
Well, I'm just saying, from a psychologically, I see it as, it hurts me more. I go, wow, we really need feminism. That's like, it hurts me more than seeing an asshole as a woman defend that. I just, wow, that really shows that there's a lot that needs to change.
Yeah.
Because that person is being victimizing and has now made it okay. It's not okay. It's not okay for people to oppress you. That's not okay. It's okay to like a different relationship, but it's not okay to like the oppression. So I'm just saying, you're welcome to see it differently, but I'm just saying that's how it is to me. I just, wow.
No, I mean, like, you're making a pretty good point. Like, I'm not the type of person who just believes things. I believe things with evidence.
Right.
When somebody gives me more compelling evidence to believe something different, I'm a pure scientist in that. Like, you give me evidence, I'm going to consider it. And, the argument that you're giving me is incredibly reasonable and makes perfect sense.
Right.
And it's the type of thing that I'm probably going to think on and most likely end up agreeing with, because it just makes sense.
The easiest way I always tell people, especially for morality, I do this, but the easiest way to tell truth from non-truth is reframe it in a different position. And if it's still true, then it's probably true. So, like if you say, well, do you know that most people that our parents are alcoholics become children of alcoholics? Which means they usually help hide, right? They can become part of the problem, but they're actually becoming victimized. They help hide the problem. They feel guilty for that. They try to tend and befriend, basically, no matter male or female, and they actually become psychologically hurt because of this. They end up with other relationships that are problematic because of this behavior. They continue it. They actually, without knowing it, seek it out. And so, to me, I see that it is no different for women in that same sense. It's just the same. Because really the problem is a psychological problem. That in other words, whenever we're victimized or oppressed, like you said, Stockholm Syndrome, it's just part of our makeup to try to survive. So to me, I see it as almost evolutionary, in the fact that we are, I always say, trying to get equilibrium, balance. We want to get balance. Our body, tries to adapt to things. I mean, even like with drugs, the fact that we are able to build tolerance is an adaptation. Our body's going, okay, we get in this drug, so we've got to learn how to function normally with this level of the drug. So I would say the same thing happens with females. They try to function at a normal level in this level of oppression. So I see them as extremely victims, and it's sad. It's really sad. And I'll fight for them. That's why someone says, well, why do you talk about feminism when it's almost not enough women support me doing that? Yeah, and that's why I need to do that. You just gave me the reason why it's even more important that I do that. And like I said, and I really appreciate you, doing that and being a feminist. We need to do this, and it needs to be said 1,000 times. It needs to be said until people start listening. And it's like the gay rights. It didn't happen until someone stood out in Stonewall and said, no, fuck no.
Oh, God. Don't even get me started on Stonewall. The fact that the gay and lesbian and bisexual community craps on the trans community so much, when the trans community is what jump-started the gay rights movement,
yes,
pisses me off so much. Like, are you kidding me? You're really gonna, like... I mean, that's not even a case of... I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's like, oh, hey, we owe, our current success to you. Fuck you. Like, what?
Yeah. But in general, people that don't understand things, like, you ever heard that quote that I say? That what you don't understand, you come to fear. That what you fear, you learn. That what you fear, you learn to hate. That what you hate, you seek to destroy. So we have to do the opposite. We have to try to understand, because we need to and minimize fear. Because if we fear unchecked, usually becomes destructive.
Oh, absolutely agree with that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's actually interesting. Like, from a psychological standpoint, that's one of the reasons why the gay rights movement has moved farther and faster than the civil rights movement. Because, being gay has no known genetic component. It just kind of happens in 10% of the population. Like, you could be the most hard-line conservative on the planet, and you can have a kid who's trans or who's gay, and then suddenly somebody who's gay or who's trans, and it's relatable to you all of a sudden. But two super racist white people are not going to spontaneously give birth to a black kid and understand what it means to know black people. And so, like, because of that kind of separation, it's so much harder to overcome these biases. Because it's like, I used to be in this discussion group and that was in that group, I ended up leaving on horrible terms because of rampant sexism. Actually, interestingly, the women were more sexist than the men in that group to me. And the men were actually coming to my defense in this situation that ended up ultimately making me leave. But there was women in there, white, middle class, stay-at-home mothers who were like, racism is dead in America. I never experienced racism. And it's like, you live in an all-white neighborhood. You don't experience other races. So how the hell would you know if, like, anti-Hispanic or anti-black racism is a thing or not? You literally have no actual way of making this statement. You're just saying it from ignorance. Like, clearly in your all-white community, you don't experience that racism because you don't have those races around to experience it in front of you.
I totally agree.
It's just like, I mean, it's ridiculous. That situation was bad too.
See, we need people like you.
I'm glad to feel needed.
Well, you are. I mean, this is like awesome fucking stuff, man. This is the shit that I fucking love. I mean, this is the like I said, to me, this is what a lot of the stuff you're talking about is going to be in my Firebrand Atheist book, because this shit needs to be said, and not because I'm trying to offend people, because this is a really fucking problem that is offensive. Mm-hmm. This is offensive to humanity. What's going on? All this shit needs to change. It's offensive to humanity. We need to stop caring that it's going to offend someone's poor little feelings, when this is really things that are offending the humanity itself.
Exactly. I mean, and that's where it really comes to the point of offense in feelings versus like actual harm.
Yep.
Like, if I like, that was the whole thing. Like, if I say something not nice to you, it could hurt your feelings. And it could really hurt your feelings. But if I say something not nice to, somebody and base it on some racial stereotype, not only is it going to hurt their feelings, but it's actually going to perpetuate a system that is already hurting their bodily, integrity and their person and their job prospects and everything else. Like, it's not enough just for something to make you feel bad for it to count as oppression. Like, it has to be systemic. And in most of these instances that we discussed, other than misandry, it is systemic. Like, having like 10% of the population think you're an ass because you say sexist shit and make rape jokes, that's not systemic. That's a result of your shitty behavior. Like, that's literally this to that result of your actions. If you weren't that way, they wouldn't hate you for being that way. And it's something you can help. You know, like, we're not hating on you because you're a penis, we're not hating on you because you identify as a man, we're not hating on you because you're white, we're not hating on you because of anything that you can't help. We're hating on you because you're hurting people. So don't hurt people and we won't hate on you for hurting people. Like, that's how it works. And, like, I don't understand how more people don't understand it. Like, just the other day I was called a racist for calling out racism. You know?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's stupid. Well, the other thing that's funny, too, is, like, which you're also pointing out an important factor is that, let's say you call someone an asshole, they're not going to go commit suicide. But like you said, what happens when you already have a system of oppression and you put down a woman, or you put down someone for being gay, or you put down someone for being a different race, you are feeding this already overwhelming burden that then might make that person feel such shame that they do kill themselves. So it is way more detrimental. Just like to me, it's like you said about rape. It's bad to rape a person. It's worse to rape like a young child. It's worse to rape a young child that's already been raped. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the effect is even greater. So when a person's already oppressed and you just put more oppression on top, the weight of that can be too much. And it could end up, actually causing life harm. Where, like you said,
you the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right, but if you drop a straw or even a little brick on top of one that has no oppression at all, it does almost nothing. I mean, it's offensive, but they're not going to go kill themselves.
Exactly. Like, as an example, I found out in college that I that I'm Jewish on my father's side, which, you want to get into whether it's race or ethnicity, whether it's matrilineal or not, whatever, like, I, started learning about the culture and kind of, like, understanding it better. Someone the other day started making, like, anti-Jewish remarks to me, and I'm like, okay, I haven't had a lifetime of anti-Jewish remarks. So, to me, the fact that you're doing this trying to hurt me, I find it funny. Somebody who grew up in a Jewish household, who had all that crap, like, it's not going to be funny to them. Because this is the first time I've ever having anybody do it. I'm just like, wow, you are such a troll, and you're trying so hard to hurt my feelings that you're a joke. But when you have everybody trying so hard to hurt your feelings,
right,
it's not as funny anymore. It's not like this isolated incident.
Right.
It's a systemic thing.
Yes.
And so I'm like, even when you're in a situation where you are, or where you have the identity that is being attacked, like, you could still be, fine with it, experience that your entire life. And that's really what it comes down to. It's like a lifetime of oppression. It's a lifetime of, like gay people. It's a lifetime of being gay is a sin. And you're going to go to hell. And hate the sinner, hate the sin, love the sinner, but I'm going to think that you're going to hell, and somehow that's love, because I don't understand what love is, apparently.
Yeah.
And, like, it's so much different. It's so much harder. It's the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's, like, you just heap crap on them. One day, what you heap on them, they're not going to be able to stand it anymore. They're going to collapse.
Yeah, and that's not right. Definitely. Nope. So that's why I'm anti-bullying. I think that's non-effective. So.
Oh, me too.
So I try not to do that even to people who are assholes. I've had people tell me "fuck you" on my page, I just delete them. I try to, because I so much do not believe in that kind of behavior, and so I silence their voice.
Yeah. Usually I'll kind of engage with them, not always on their level, sometimes on their level, and then when I'm just like, okay, I'm done here, I'll just be like, okay, bye, click. Like, the other day, I actually twice in the last week, I was called a racist for calling out racist, behavior. One of them was, I'm sure William's post about Dusty Smith. He had,
no.
Oh, he said that Dusty Smith is basically like the Sarah Palin of the atheist community. And this guy who was on his friends list was like, well, you know, that's disingenuous, this and that. It doesn't make sense. Like, yeah, he's not the brightest tool in the shed, but that doesn't mean he's like Sarah Palin. He wasn't even calling him, like, he wasn't equating him to Sarah Palin because he thinks he's dumb. It had to do with literally his argumentation tactics and the way that he, you know, like, frames things. And so the guy was like, oh, such and such, and he said something that was kind of racist, and he was like, and if that makes me a racist, I don't care. And I was like, okay, so that's really great that you don't care you're a racist. Clearly that's the most important thing, that you don't care that you're being racist. Like, it's not the racism that matters, it's how you feel about it. And, you know, some guy was like, well, if you think he's a racist, then you don't understand him, and, you know, you're a racist. I'm like, okay, so you're rubber, I'm glue, anything I say bounces off of you and sticks to me. That's wonderful, but you're still being a racist and saying racist things. Like, I don't care if you want to try and turn it around on me because, oh, well, you said something I don't like and I'm white, therefore fuck you. Like, that's not how it works. And in that situation, you know, I engaged with the person. The second situation, I was called a racist when I had literally not said anything racist. Like, it wasn't even like I was attacking a white person or anything. What I had said was, I just get tired of white people making generalizations about Africa like it's all one place and all the people are the same, because there's a difference between educating yourself and spreading information about a particular tribe or country or cultural practice and just posting some fake shit on Facebook. And I was told, oh, you know, like, oh, well, you said shit, like, you're probably a racist anyway. And it's like, you know what, I'm just going to block you because I don't even know how to respond to that. Like, nothing that I said was racist against anybody, and to be called a racist for that is just ridiculous. Yeah. Like, calling out racism isn't racist, just like calling out intolerance isn't intolerant. I'm like, okay, that's great, I'm intolerant of intolerance. I'm such a horrible hypocrite. No, because if I tolerate intolerance, then everybody's fucked. Like, there are some things you have to not tolerate. Intolerance is one of them.
Well, yeah, it's like I tell people that the hate of injustice is the positive momentum for justice.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You can't just really love justice. You have to really hate injustice.
That's right. That is right. Because they go, all hate is bad. I go, really? It's like when I told them I'm anti-religionist and an anti-theist, and they said, well, isn't everything anti-bad? I go, I'll have to tell the Anti-Defamation League that. Everything anti is bad.
Yep.
Come on. I mean, people are like...
No, anti just means you're against. I mean, if you're only against things, that could be a problem. If you're not for anything, sure. Men's rights movement, cough, cough.
Yeah.
But if you're for things and against their negatives, then that's a reasonable and understandable position to be in. Like, it doesn't make sense to be for something but not against the things that counteract it.
Right.
You know, like, I'm for sobriety, but I'm not against drinking alcohol. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, either you're for it, or you're against it, or you're kind of somewhere in the middle, but you can't, like, actively say you're for it and then not fight against it. And then not fight against its like, negative, like, the things that harm it. I'm for black people, but I don't stand up against racism. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well,
could you give me 1 minute? I need to plug my system in. Otherwise,
well, that's fine. I have a meatloaf cooking, and I think it's about done.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like meatloaf. I haven't made it in a while, but it's... I actually accidentally made a veggie loaf the last time I made it because I put way too many vegetables. It's like so very little meat. It tasted like a meatloaf, but it was like 90% like vegetable matter.
That's cool. Well, it's been an awesome interview with you anyways.
Thank you. I've had a great time.
Thank you. And
here comes the hero. My younger brother's behind me, bringing over the plug, like, oh, I saved the day.
All right, well, I will see you on Facebook.
Yes, you will.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.